Are you a disciple of Yehusha Messiah? In the book of Acts, chapter 11, verse 26, it tells us that the early believers were in fact disciples. But what does that word actually mean? Today what we're going to be looking at is three distinctions that define a disciple according to Yehusha Messiah. If we go to the book of John, chapter 8, verses 31 through 32, it is written, "And so Yehusha said to those Yahudim who believed in him, 'If you stay in my word, you are truly my taught ones,' or disciples, 'and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.'" Those three things right there. If you stay in my word, he says, you are truly my taught ones, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Let's look at this and break this down a little bit, because sad to say, this is often not taught, or not, as what we're going to get into. A lot of people have been taught since they made a decision when they were a little child or whatever. They believed at one point, or at one point they were a disciple, they think they're going to have entrance into the kingdom. Well, not according to the scriptures. So let's get into this and look closer. If you stay in my word, this means continuation. Because if even at the end of this chapter in John 8, we'll see that those who believed are actually throwing stones at Messiah at the end of this chapter. So obviously they weren't continuing with him anymore. They didn't believe anymore. Also in John 6, verse 66, it's also written, "And from then on, many of his taught ones, disciples, withdrew and were not walking with him anymore." They had started off walking with him. They had started off believing. They maybe once believed, but they didn't believe anymore. And see, this is a problem, because a lot of people, they maybe start off as the parable of the sower and the seed, but persecution comes or whatever, and they end up withdrawing, and they don't bear any fruit. So Messiah specifically says, "Those who stay in my word are truly my taught ones." Now, this becomes confusing for a lot of people, because they have been taught again that Messiah's words are different than the Father's, and they think that Messiah is on a different agenda. But again, this is not what the scripture teaches. In the same book, in John 14, verse 24, it is written that "He who does not love me does not guard my words, and the words which you hear is not mine, but the Father who sent me." So the disciples are hearing the words of the Father through the Son. Also in John 17, verses 5 and 6, it is written, "And now esteem me with yourself, Father, with the esteem I had with you before the world was. I have revealed your name to the men whom you have given me out of the world. They were yours, and you have given them to me, and they have guarded your word." So Messiah's word that he's given to his taught ones is the word of the Father. And Messiah says here in verse 6 that they guarded your word, the Father's word. That's what it means in John 8 when it says, "If you stay in my word." The Son and the Father are on the same page. You are truly my taught ones. But it goes beyond that. That's just the entry point. We need to pay attention to the other two distinctions. You shall know the truth. What's the truth? Psalm 119, 142, the Torah is truth. John 17:17, Messiah says, "Sanctify them by thy truth. Thy word is truth." Also in Isaiah 8:16, it says, "Bind up the witness and seal the Torah among my disciples," or taught ones. So this idea of knowing the truth is knowing his word, the Torah. "And the truth shall make you free." See, since they're following Messiah, they're abiding in him, and they know the truth, they are set free. Now you may say, set free from what? Sin. As he says a couple verses later, Yehusha answered them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, everyone doing sin is a servant of sin. A servant doesn't stay in the house forever. A son stays forever. If then the Son makes you free, you shall be free indeed." Once we put our trust and faith in Messiah and we're abiding in His words, we'll know the truth, and the truth is going to set us free from sin. Sin is a violation of the Torah. That's 1 John 3:4. So this is foundational, but it's often not taught. People aren't taught to actually abide in the Torah, the righteous instructions of Yah. So when they come to the knowledge of Yahusha Messiah, they need to actually understand these things. Also in the book of Matthew, for the Great Commission, it tells us this in chapter 28, verse 18. And Yahusha came up and spoke to them, saying, All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go make taught ones of all nations, immersing them in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the set-apart Spirit, teaching them to guard all that I have commanded you. And see, I am with you always until the end of the age. Amen. So the taught ones were supposed to teach the same words that they received from the Son to the nations. There is no gap at all. That the same thing they received from Yahusha, they were supposed to deliver to the nations. And that's why we can know that the early believers, according to Acts 11:26, were actually taught ones. They were actually disciples. They were continuing in His Word. They knew the truth, and the truth was setting them free from sin. I have to ask you, are you a disciple of Yahusha Messiah? Are you continuing in His Word? Do you know the truth, and has it set you free from sin? Shalom.